everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome back to another episode of VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV from La Token. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the host and the moderator of the show today, and I welcome you all to VCTV. It's a Monday. I'm very excited. Beginning of the week, and too much excitement here in the panel today. And me being a little low on energy because I got my second dose of COVID vaccination. So please bear with my low level of energies. Having said that, let's have a quick round of intro of the speakers today of the panel. Here you go. Hi. Ooh. Wayne, Adrian, and Peter. Welcome back and happy Monday. How are you all doing today? Great.
Tony, good to see you.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Let's start with you then. Let's have a quick round of intro.
Okay. So I just arrived back earlier this week, actually last week in the UK after being 3 months away in the US. Very busy in the US on various deals as well as going to Disney World. So that's more important clearly than work. I work at a family office. I'm the executive director of the Weimer Family Office. Our locations are based, Sony, in London and Denmark. Our core business strategies are real estate, mills and mining, alternative energy. So you might say, what are we doing on something to do with crypto, blockchain, etc.? Well, it's a very important asset class for multifamily offices, in particular multi-billion-dollar family offices such as ourselves. You know, we look at AI, we look at technology, satellite, telecommunications. In fact, Per Weimer is a founding astronaut of Virgin Galactic with his dear friend Richard Branson. So obviously, we look at the sector quite closely. As you know, I'm very involved in the SPAC space, and with one of your guests, Gary Fowler, we're launching a SPAC that's focused on AI, crypto, nanotechnology, etc. So blockchain, cryptocurrency is all very important part of that aspect. And so I hope today to add family office perspective in how we look at investments in the crypto space.
Very interesting. So may I just quickly ask, is the target company the crypto startup?
Well, for the SPAC that we're looking at, it would be various companies that would add value where the management team that I'm a part of could execute in terms of improving the growth and the eventual valuation. So across AI, nanotechnology, cryptocurrency, blockchain, et cetera,
Right.
all part. So we look at a company, we look at company and companies, okay, that have a specific niche in any one of those specific sectors as a potential target and where the management team can add value.
Got it. Thank you, Peter. Thanks a lot for that information. Okay, I think we have lost another speaker, Wayne, because of his connection, but never mind. We have Adrian, who just joined us now. Hi, Adrian. Welcome back.
Hi, Soli. Hello, Peter. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me again. By the way, Sony told us that she took the second dose of vaccine. We will take it, me and my wife, in 2 days from now. No side effects until this moment, and hopefully will be like that in the future. I'm Adrian Niculescu, serial entrepreneur and investor. Besides being involved as an advisor or as a board member in a few companies, I'm also involved directly in Cloudcoin Consortium. Cloudcoin is a post-blockchain digital currency. DAO1, a decentralized autonomous organization. Also, I launched recently coincruncher.com, which is a resource for news and education in crypto and blockchain, and also part of a few other projects, not to mention all of them here. Happy to be on this call this Monday and contribute.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. You're very lucky. I just got knocked off yesterday, and today I still feel a little dizzy. Not dizzy. How would I explain it? I feel hungover, but you know. But anyways, good to know that you didn't have no side effects. Lucky. Okay, perfect. All right. So today we have Peter and Adrian, and the topic is investments in blockchain. So we'll try to cover as much as possible coming from for your portfolio. I think Peter, as he rightly said, is involved in many investment models, including SPACs, and one of the target companies is AI crypto company as well. Let's start with some trends in terms of investments in blockchain that happened in 2020, 21. Peter, over to you. What are the trends that we see?
I think some of the most important trends is the diversity of the asset class in terms of being an actual real asset class that's attracting the interest of not just retail and venture capital funds, but it's been broader now to the fact that it's an asset class that institutional investors will take a look at, and whether that's a traditional asset manager or that's a credit fund or a private equity fund. So I think it's important to realize that as a real asset class, it will be getting increased scrutiny and then allocations from institutional investors. That's a very important dynamic than from a mom and pop dynamic that we have large institutional investors, family offices taking a look at the asset class that not only diversifies the asset base, the investor base, but also legitimizes the asset class as a true asset class that will benefit from funds. Over time, you will see dedicated funds more and more becoming part of the asset class, broadening the investor base, deepening the investor base. So it really goes down, Sony, at this stage is assuming it is a proper investment and asset class. Now it comes out is finding the opportunities in terms of the sectors and the companies within that. Who are the survivors? Who are likely will have growth, significant growth, can grow into, in some cases, the valuations that are already sky high. Okay, so it really goes down to management. You've heard me say this time and time again from a fundamental analysis point of view. You need to look at the management team that's backing the company. Do they have a historical experience? How deep is that management team? Who is on their advisory board and their board of directors that could help them in terms of execution? When the company gets to a stage that it needs to either do an IPO or be part of a SPAC acquisition, I'm talking about private companies now.
Right.
Do they have the team in place to execute going forward when it becomes under more serious scrutiny by the regulators, et cetera, and they'll have to adhere to shareholder reports, quarterly filings, et cetera. So like any other sector, like any other company, it's identifying which of those companies are likely to be the survivors and the specific leaders in their specific industries. So, you know, when you talk about the asset class we're talking about now, it's too broad. So we need to narrow it down to individual sectors within it, and then individual companies who are the top 5 or top 10 within those individual sectors, and then focus on those. It's also going to be important to not just look at the company, but to look at the supply chain. Who are their suppliers? Who are their customers? And what is the viability of those? Because that entire vertical is going to be very important in terms of their growth and staying power.
Absolutely. It's very broad, as you rightly said. Thank you so much, Peter. I'm going to drill down a bit after this opening remarks. Thank you so much. Adrian, so may we have the opening remarks from you, please?
We have to look at two aspects. One of them is the crypto aspect of blockchain, and the second one, the enterprise aspect of it. Regarding crypto, I see huge opportunities in what I call the platform tokens or platform coins. Of course, when I'm saying platform coins, I'm looking at the ones with their own blockchains. You can build a lot of stuff on it. And also when I'm looking at private tokens, I'm looking for tokens which are built on other blockchains, but also you can do a lot of stuff on their own platforms, not necessarily building other coins. And I see a lot of investments and a lot of interest in building the infrastructure for the crypto space, because let's say we are in a bubble and we speak with a lot of people knowing a lot about this subject, but the percentage of the people knowledgeable in this space or of the people who are using this space is still very, 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 very small. So a lot of infrastructure is built today, and the ones who are investing in this infrastructure will have mover advantage. And also looking at the enterprise, like, okay, how we can use blockchain in corporations, in large companies. How can blockchain help, as Peter said, the supply chain, which is a huge deal? How can blockchain help lowering the number of counterfeit products which are available today? And things like that still are in their infancy, because, and I said something similar in another call, so many, especially middle managers, they fear the change, because by using blockchain, their services will not be needed anymore, so somehow they protect their jobs instead of upgrading what they are doing and embrace blockchain and other similar technologies. Anyway, the investment space is very hot, and it will be even hotter here. And of course, we don't know exactly who will win and who will lose. And maybe blockchain will become, Bitcoin will become the MySpace or crypto or not. Who knows?
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you so much, Adrian. A little bit of stats. Blockchain startups raised a record 4.4 billion in the second quarter of 2021, despite the slump in crypto prices. Okay, so that's coming from CNBC. Okay, I would like to know the different use cases. Like, we know crypto is one of the very prominent use case of blockchain technology, right? That we all know of. But besides that obviously blockchain technology it can be used in various other industries, like supply chain. One of them is supply chain. I'm trying to remember. So if we could share some of the use cases today with our audience, that would be great. Let me just start with Peter first.
I think the most important thing that we're looking at right now is the opportunity in the crypto security space.
Right.
After the significant amount of the shutdowns on the East Coast in the United States due to hacks from Russia. We're also going to see more and more of these attacks on the infrastructure across the globe in large cities where governments are going to need to get involved. So we're trying to identify which companies, okay, will have the leading edge in terms of cyber security, and how does that, and which ones are using the blockchain as part of that analysis. So we're trying to identify those that are going to be leaders, those that have great, talking about the supply chain again and the customer chain, basically those that have the best contacts globally in terms of governments around the world. I think this is going to be a huge sector, and it's going to be one that we're going to be significantly focused on, as well as other family offices. I also think it'll be a great opportunity for SPACs to identify those companies as part of the target acquisition of those companies in the space that will likely benefit, that are in the private space and looking to get into the public space without having to do an IPO.
So, Peter, I'm going to ask Asia next, but in continuation with your sort of insights, I want to know how state and federal regulators are responding to this growing digital currency sector, because as you mentioned, it's a lot of security issues. So, how are regulators responding to this?
Well, first of all, you got to look at it from a couple different aspects. It's a very large space, right? So you need to look at it from the crypto coin, first of all. Obviously, many central banks are already looking at their own digitalization currency. How that impacts the financial intermediaries and how they work with their central banks is something to be seen. But that's in a monetary supply, how monetary conditions are influenced by central banks and market participants is the case for a much larger and broader call, Sony, than for your audience today. But that's obviously a very significant aspect that's taking up a lot of regulatory time. The second thing is obviously on KYC, situations involving the proper know your customer, the dealings with Anti-money laundering issues is going to be more and more significant, particularly when we talk about the banking system getting involved. And obviously all the CEOs of the major banks, particularly in the US and the UK and others, are obviously looking at the crypto space and seeing how it's going to be, how they're going to participate in it, if at all. And they will participate because their customers are going to demand that they're participating in. So that then leads to regulators such as the SEC and FINRA in the United States, the FCA in the UK, and similar government bodies getting more and more involved. So the net of this exercise is that we're going to see increased regulation in the space. Right. The benefits of that, though, is with increased regulation, there's going to be obviously a much rigid KYC process. That more rigid process is going to ensure the safety of retail investors into the space. Not that they can't lose their money, but at least that they know that there's a watchdog, a financial watchdog that has their back.
Absolutely. I think totally agree with the increased sort of, when the banks, the regulated entities get into the space, it's going to be more and more stricter, which is good for all of us, I think. Adrian, same question, use cases and regulatory landscape.
I see two very interesting use cases developing instead in spite of the market being down. By the way, in talking to developers, even to investors, the interest is focused on the technology and on building these platforms. Very rarely is mentioned the market price, because that one is always the result. Of course, when you are doing some trading, it's important, but most of the people are long-term holders, I would say. I don't want to say investors, because we have to not forget the fact that most of these digital assets are utility tokens or coins. They are not securities. So by using investment associated with them, it's not congruency. Of course, everybody holding a coin is saying that he's an investor. But if we look at fundamentals, there are different things. So the two applications, the two use cases I'm very close looking at is crypto gaming. And by the way, I'm not a gamer. I sold computer games over the years, but I didn't play them. I'm more into music. But right. I'm looking because when during these last, let's say 2 months, when the market was down, it was a huge boost in crypto gaming, and also in applications on with NFTs related to crypto gaming, and is a huge surge in this space. And of course, besides crypto gaming, the NFTs in the entertainment zone, which is a huge area still barely explored with great potential in the future. In the same time, here it has to be solved the copyright issue, because I can put an artwork which is not mine on a platform. I could sell it, and the real creator of that piece will not be credited, because there's no not necessarily a centralized body to vet those projects, because it will not be a good idea. But at least it's like when you are putting on YouTube a song, immediately it will be blocked if there will be a copyright claim on that piece. In the NFT space, something like that doesn't exist. Is a great opportunity here also to be developed. It will take some time, but these are the two big applications I'm looking at and I'm very excited about.
I think totally, Adrian, totally agree with you when it comes to the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens. I've seen so many sort of projects coming up in the space or in entertainment, art, and sports industries, right? So I get contacted almost every day, and they are in the NFT space. I'd like to ask Peter. Peter, would you advise your high net worth families to invest in NFTs? If yes, what's the return? I'm trying to understand what's the return if somebody invests on NFTs.
Listen, I think it's a important part to follow. I think right now it's not deep enough for a family office, a large family office, to invest. So I think it's going to be a bit of more of a retail focus
Right.
for the next, I would say, 18 to 24 months. But after that, I think it's proven itself. So I do think it'll be something that's more and more looked at. But I think it's going to be a little bit too specialized right now, and will remain of the realm of the retail VC space, and maybe some smaller family offices. But it's not at the point that it's institutional investor worthy yet as an asset class.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. I just want to know: is there any differences between traditional startup fundraising versus a crypto or a blockchain startup fundraising or deal structuring? Adrian, have you seen, because you are now into deep, you are deeply involved with blockchain crypto tokens, and you were also involved with traditional startups before in the space. So do you see any big differences that you can share, or is the same model?
Sometimes are the same people who are migrating from one side to the other, or the same people doing both. In some cases are highly specialized people doing only classical VC funding or only crypto funding. So it's like a mix of all. I would like to add also something to the previous idea regarding NFTs. Not all NFTs are equal, and the NFTs, they are coming into the market based on a very old habit of people for collecting things. And even high net worth people, they are collecting, of course, different things than the regular people. And if an NFT has the potential, if has the fundamentals to keep and increase its value, worth putting some money of it. But going into NFTs for the sake of going there, because all the hurdle of people are going there, of course, is not a good idea. Because like anybody can mint an NFT today, right? In 2 minutes for free.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many platforms.
Yeah. So I just want to know, Adrian, what's the return on investment on NFTs?
It depends. In the higher the return, the higher the risk. Is like the question would be, which is the return you are comfortable with? Because in crypto, people are and in crypto, in the industries related to, when we are talking about returns, people expect to put $1 and to make 1,000 or 1 million. You know, it's like obnoxious returns. I would say that in the NFT space, investors should look at, I don't know, from 3x to 5x to 10x,
Right.
let's say. Something like that. These are the sweet spots, because they are taking a lot of risk. But of course, it can happen 100x or 1000x. But it's like with the staking platforms, you see a great return, but you will never see your money. You will never see your principal. You will never see your rewards, because in 6 months, that platform will collapse. So your return in 1 year will never be there. So the most important part is, of course, with any investment, you know, to conserve your capital, so not to lose your money, and to have a return on investment which has a very good ratio between the risk and reward. and after that to diversify in few areas. So if, let's say, one channel will go down, you will not lose all your capital. The basic investment rules are also present here, but the volatility is even higher. So the bet is even riskier.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Adrian. Same question to Peter. What is there any differences, Peter, you see traditional startup fundraising versus crypto startup fundraising?
It's a very good question, Sony. And I really don't have a specific answer, so I apologize for that. But I do believe that the whole space is going to be much more focused on the VC side for the time being than on a broader based investment profile there. And that's really all I could say to the space. But as Adrian mentioned, it's too broad of a question. If you ask me a very specific question within the in the individual sector, it might be easier to answer. But it's just too broad of an answer to add value.
Yeah, got it. Like Adrian said, NFTs are more for retail investors, right? I mean, not you mentioned, right? Yeah, not much for the family office.
But it's not necessarily a VC, and it could be for a family office, but it's going to be a small. I mean, you can't basically. There's a former partner from Fortress, Novogratz, has a dedicated part of his family, a dedicated investment platform that's dedicated to the whole crypto, cybersecurity, cyber, Bitcoin type of space. But that's a one-off type of family office specifically focused on that have set up a dedicated fund. In general, there's going to be a lot more conferences now that the world's opening up again, introducing family offices to the asset class. They'll become more and more relevant, but right now it's still at the very infant stages.
Yes,
I can't be more specific.
Yes, thank you so much, Peter, for that. I just want to know how much investments have gone into the decentralized finance space, because decentralized finance, NFTs are something that we hear a lot.
Sonia, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I mean, that is a great question, and it's growing exponentially as we see. Particularly when we look at fintech and others, but this is a trend that's not recent. This has been going on since the global financial crisis ended around 2008-9. We've seen the decentralization, the disintermediation of the traditional banking space as we saw more and more ways to not avoid regulation, but just an opportunity for a different approach to financial intermediation, and that became financial disintermediation, and that trend has only grown exponentially when we look at the AI and crypto space, fintech, etc., and that will continue to grow exponentially.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter, for jumping in really quick. Adrian, let's just hear from you now.
I like very much the decentralization thesis by bringing back the power from centralized authorities to the little guy, I would say. So the normal persons can not just remain users; they become part of the process, and this huge shift comes also with responsibilities, because the little guy has to learn new things, because back in the day, all you had to do was to go to the banker and ask, okay, I have this money, what can I do with it? Or I have this need, I want this loan, how much can I take from the bank, So in the decentralized space, you need to take decisions, okay, where do I stake my funds? Where do I farm my funds, There's a lot of risk regarding, okay, which platforms I'm using, or which pairs I'm using, and so on. How to cope with volatility. Of course, in the farming, the guarantees for assets are more liquid in the decentralized space, which is very different from the real world. But the previous just user who is now a player has to learn a lot of things. And unfortunately, most people leave this type of learning in the hands of influencers on YouTube or on TikTok or everywhere. TikTok is banning this content, but you got the idea. Instead of spending, I don't know, hours, days, months, even years, to learn these things. Today is easier than ever to learn because you have all the resources. You mostly just need to put your time there and to have, I don't know, a laptop and an internet connection and to start learning. You don't need expensive schools. You don't need anything of that. But while these platforms are not yet very user friendly for the regular non-tech users, are done for geeks mostly, or for tech guys. And of course, the security of these platforms is not like a simple subject. Is very controversial. Still, we are at the very, very early stage in this space. But of course, we need to all the players to do our part. So to the platforms to become more user friendly, people to be more educated about what they have to do and how they would have to behave, and also how the security can be enhanced for these platforms. And as Peter mentioned before, is a huge opportunity also for investors in this space to tackle the security part of the decentralized platforms, because this is one of the biggest stop in mass adoption. You don't know exactly if the funds will be there or not. Not say exactly, but at least, I don't know, with the 80% certainty. The certainty is between 0 and 50% usually, which is not something comfortable for everybody,
Yes. I just want to have a last question before we take some closing remarks. So what are the challenges for this mass adoption?
I think the most, if you start with me, Sony, I think the mass adoption will happen. Okay, there's no doubt about that. We're moving that way. Okay, but two things need to occur. One, there needs to be a regulatory framework put in place. Okay,
Right.
For it to be an institutional investor type of asset class. Otherwise, it remains at the fringes. Once that's the case, you'll have buy-in by a much broader and deeper bench of investors, not just small retail, not just the pioneers in terms of the venture capital in the space, but a deep bench of capital. Once that occurs, okay, this will become a more and more relevant asset class where indices will be created as well, not just specifically for the asset class, but as part of a broader asset class and a broader index for institutional investors to track, because institutional investors are paid by beating indexes. So we need to have these certain specific, the leading companies as part of an index. We need indexes created just to track the performance of the sector and space as well. But again, I hate to use the name sector. It's too broad. We have within this space various sectors, and within that various companies, and then the various leaders. That's why it's a very broad topic, and each topic within it can be a discussion for a much more in-depth conversation and a more in-depth white papers on it as well.
Totally agree. We just have a very broad topic today, investments in blockchain. You rightly said, Peter, it's a very broad topic. But anyways, thanks for sort of chipping in and sharing your insights. Adrian, would you like to add on anything to what just Peter said?
Just to add on what I said earlier, there are three major factors blocking the mass adoption: the security, the usability of the platforms, and the education. The financial education, I would say the financial education 2.0 needed to access in a knowledgeable way this space. And of course, the mass adoption will happen. It's a matter of time. The thing is how fast or how long it will take until the mass adoption will happen.
Perfect. So yeah, we've come to the end of the session today. Let's take some closing remarks, and we are done. I'm going to start with Peter.
Yes. So, in terms of today's topic, I think it's an extremely important, relevant topic. I think it's not just for your viewership, but also for institutional investors and larger asset managers and family office. The adoption is going to become more and more widely accepted by both retail and institutional investors and family offices like myself. That will lead to a larger degree of scrutiny by regulators on a global basis. That is not a negative thing. That is a positive thing, because it will allow for the asset class to become more deeply entrenched. And I would expect to see more and more. When I talk about institutional investors, what am I talking about there? So I just want to be clear for your investor base. There are asset managers, there are credit funds, there are private equity funds, there are equity-focused funds, there are pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, insurance companies, and others, all that have the ability to manage large pools of capital. In many cases, those pools of capital come from retail investors that become consolidated, whether that's a policeman's retirement fund, whether that's a teacher's retirement fund and managed by a pension fund, whether it's mom and pop who have their insurance company, their life insurance, with a life insurance company. That life insurance needs to match assets versus its liabilities as they come due, as the population gets older. Best way to do that is to have an allocation to both fixed income and equity investments, except we're not going to just have traditional fixed income, not traditional equity. We have a new and budding asset class that'll become more and more important, and there will be allocations made to this important sector.
Very well said. Very well said, Peter. Thank you so much. So moving on, I have Adrian now.
The biggest risk here is not that Bitcoin is 50,000 now and 30,000 tomorrow, especially if we are talking, as Peter mentioned, by funds for retirement, or I don't know, funds for studies or things like that. The biggest risk is that your investment or your deposit will disappear. And regulation is a great thing to happen, even, of course, and there are countless discussions about the fact that it will be a nonsense, I don't know, your bank to offer Bitcoin services, but in United States it happens already. And also large banks, they are creating crypto funds. Basically, they are translating Bitcoin to the regular investors. So we'll see these things which will seem far away from the initial thesis of decentralization and anonymity. But apart from that, once the regulation will happen, at least some of the bad actors will have to go somewhere else, because will not be welcome here. And also we'll see less and less of these heartbreaking stories that, I don't know, a family just placed all their savings into this platform. They lost everything. They can't complain to anybody. They don't have any chance of seeing something back, and things like that, which are heartbreaking. But of course, investment world is a very ruthless world. You need to find ways to address it in a manner to have a very good relation between risk and reward. This is the closing thought.
Excellent. Thank you so much, both Peter and Adrian, for your time and insights today. Thank you so much for your time and insights today, Adrian and Peter, sorry. So great insights. Maybe fast forward 10 years from now would be not talking about mass adoption question anymore. Perhaps we would see some use cases, new as well. So thanks for your time, and viewers of VCTV, please tune in more please tune in to VCTV tomorrow as well. I'll be back again on another episode of VCTV, another set of speakers and a new topic. Till then, take care of yourself, Peter and Adrian, and I'll see you again. Bye.
Thank you, Sony. Cheers now.
Thank you very
Take care.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.